morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is April 1st, 2025. And let me tell you, the news out of India, whoo, it's coming in fast and furious.
Fast and Furious. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We've got everything from major upsets in the world of cricket to some pretty big developments on the global trade front.
Oh, and we can't forget about those diplomatic relations. Always a fascinating dance.
Oh, yeah, always lots of twists and turns there.
And then there's the climate.
Right.
It's front and center. Can't ignore it.
Definitely not. The data's pretty stark.
Stark is right. And to top it all off, we've even got a glimpse into the future of Indian politics.
Oh,
It's a lot to unpack.
it really is. But that's why you're here, right? To help us sift through it all and make sense of what really matters. I think our listeners have sent in some really insightful headlines, a real mix of topics, like a pulse check on what's on everyone's minds.
A pulse check. I like that.
Yeah,
And yeah, it seems like everyone is hungry for information.
absolutely. And we're here to deliver, so let's dive right in, shall we? First up, a headline that's got the sports fans buzzing.
Oh yeah, this one's a biggie. Mumbai Indians pulling off a stunning victory in the IPL. They really turned things around.
A big turnaround indeed. 8 wickets against the Kolkata Knight Riders. It's their first win after, 2 losses in a row?
Yep, 2 losses. So this win, it's a big deal for them, a real momentum shifter. And you know who was the star of the show?
Lay it on me.
A debutante, a young left-arm pacer by the name of Ashwani Kumar.
A debutante. That's impressive.
Oh, he was incredible. 4 wickets for just 24 runs, took out some major players like Rahane and Russell, really broke the back of Kolkata's batting.
Wow, what a way to announce yourself on the big stage. A dream debut, if you ask me.
Absolutely. But, it wasn't just Kumar. Deepak Chahar chipped in with 2 wickets for 19 runs.
And I seem to recall Trent Bolt also making an early impact, didn't he?
Yep, right out the gate. He dismissed Nareen early on, setting the tone for the Mumbai bowlers. Kolkata really struggled to get going.
Yeah, 116 runs, that's all they could manage. And then Mumbai just cruised through the chase.
Like a hot knife through butter. Ryan Rickleton played a captain's knock, 62 runs off just 41 balls, stayed unbeaten, saw the team home.
And they wrapped it up in just 12.5 overs, I hear.
Quick work. This win, I think it's a real statement from the 5-time champions.
They're back in the game. Kolkata, on the other hand, this is their second loss in 3 games. Some work to do there.
Some work to do, for sure. But hey, it's early days in the tournament. Anything can happen.
Right, you are. Now let's shift gears a bit, talk about something that's got a lot of people concerned. Tariffs.
Ah, yes, this headline, it's about those new tariffs the United States has slapped on certain Indian goods. Big implications, potentially.
Big implications for sure. Former President Trump, he's the one who brought these back, right? A 25% tariff, that's a hefty chunk.
Hefty is right.
Yeah.
These tariffs, they're primarily aimed at the engineering and leather industries in India. We're talking about billions of dollars in shipments that are suddenly stalled.
Billions, wow. So break it down for us. Which sectors are getting hit the hardest?
Okay, so within engineering, it's iron, steel, and aluminum. These are the sectors feeling the most pressure. We're already seeing some Indian exporters like Pankaj Chadha looking for new markets, trying to pivot away from the U.S.
Makes sense. Can't just sit back and wait.
Exactly. Diversification is key in these situations.
And what about the leather industry?
Leather goods, they're also facing a tough time. They rely heavily on the U.S. market. We're hearing that profit margins are likely to shrink, could be job losses down the line. Rafiq Ahmed, he's a big name in the leather industry. He's voicing these concerns pretty loudly.
And I'm guessing the ripple effects are being felt beyond just those 2 industries.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The apparel sector, they're worried too. The Apparel Export Promotion Council, they're pushing for the government to step in, help find new markets, diversify those export destinations.
Diversification seems to be the name of the game.
It really is. But there is a glimmer of hope, Some U.S. buyers, they're willing to share the burden.
Okay, so not all doom and gloom. Good to know. But it's clear that these tariffs are a game changer. Indian exporters, they've got to adapt, find new strategies.
Absolutely. It's a wake-up call, really.
All right, let's move on to something a bit more positive, shall we? A headline that caught my eye. China and India, a significant milestone in their relationship.
75 years of diplomatic ties. It's a big one. And the Chinese ambassador, Xu Feihong, he's really emphasizing the positive trajectory of the relationship.
Interesting. Because we know it's not always been smooth sailing between these 2 giants, right?
Absolutely not. It's a complex relationship, to say the least. Lots of historical baggage, border disputes that still simmer.
Simmer is the right word. But the ambassador, he's talking about positive momentum. What's driving that?
Well, he pointed to the high-level meetings that have been happening. President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi, they've been engaging directly, trying to build bridges.
That's got to help. Dialogue is always a good thing.
It really is. And you can't ignore the economic ties. They're huge.
Yeah.
China is still India's top trading partner.
The numbers don't lie. How much trade are we talking about here?
Last year, it was $138.48 billion. It's a lot of zeros.
It is, and it sounds like both sides are keen to keep that momentum going.
Oh, yeah. The ambassador is talking about a fair business environment, making it easier for companies to operate across borders. He also mentioned all the visas they issued to Indian citizens last year, over 280,000.
Wow, that's a lot of people traveling back and forth.
It is. And they're even talking about resuming direct flights, which would be a huge boost to tourism and business travel.
Definitely a sign of things thawing.
Thawing, that's a good word.
So it's not just business as usual. There's a real effort here to collaborate on the global stage as well, right?
Absolutely. They're talking about working together on things like climate change, terrorism. President Xi even said that the unity of China and India, it has global implications.
A powerful statement. Okay, let's shift gears again, talk about something a little closer to home for our listeners. The weather. Specifically, these unprecedented temperature anomalies that India's been experiencing. This sounds pretty serious.
It's concerning, yeah. Climate change, it's having a real impact. From April 2024 through February 2025, India saw record-breaking temperatures month after month.
Month after month, that's a long stretch.
It is. And it's not just about the heat, it's the impact it's having. Agriculture, for one. Irrigation systems are strained, labor productivity is down, and traditional cropping cycles are all thrown off.
A real domino effect.
Exactly. And this, of course, can lead to all sorts of other problems like food shortages, price hikes.
Right. And the IMD, the India Meteorological Department, they've been tracking all of this, haven't they? What kind of data are we seeing?
Oh, they've got some pretty stark numbers. In April of 2024, both South and Northeast India saw record-breaking mean temperatures.
So not just isolated pockets, this is widespread.
Right. And it didn't let up. December 2024 was another record breaker. Then January and February of this year, same story. February in particular, they saw the highest maximum temperature ever recorded in India.
That's scary. And I'm guessing this isn't just an India problem, is it? This is part of a larger global trend.
It absolutely is. February 2025, it marked the 19th out of the last 20 months where the global average surface temperature was more than 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels.
Yeah, that 1.5 degree threshold, that's the one scientists have been warning us about.
That's the one, and we've been blowing past it. Now, there was that El Nino pattern from May 23 to May 24. That definitely contributed to the warmer temperatures globally. Then we had a weak La Nina, which usually cools things down a bit.
Right.
But even with that, the World Meteorological Organization, they're saying global warming is accelerating, and it's human activity that's driving it. And here's the kicker, that La Nina, it's weakening, which means...
These could get even hotter.
Exactly. It's a worrying trend, no doubt about it.
No doubt. All right, let's stay in the region for our next headline. It's about Bangladesh and its role, its potential role, as a kind of gateway for Northeast India.
Right, right. And this all ties into China's growing economic influence in the region. Mohammed Yunus, he's the chief advisor of Bangladesh, and he was recently in China. He made some pretty interesting comments.
Like what?
Well, he talked about how Bangladesh is strategically important, how it's a crucial link for Northeast India, which, as you know, is landlocked.
Right, so they rely on Bangladesh for access to the sea, for trade, for all sorts of things.
Exactly. Yunus, he's essentially saying, look, Bangladesh is a key player here, and we want to be part of China's economic expansion.
So he's kind of positioning Bangladesh as a bridge between China and Northeast India.
That's one way to put it. And he's not just talking. He's met with President Xi, pushing for closer ties, more investment.
I imagine that's got some folks in New Delhi a little bit nervous.
Oh, I'm sure there are some raised eyebrows, yeah. India's got to walk a fine line here, balancing its relationships with both Bangladesh and China.
A delicate dance, as you said earlier. And speaking of delicate dances, Yunus, he's also going to be at that big BIMSTEC summit, right?
He is. The Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. That's a mouthful.
It is. But basically, a bunch of South Asian countries getting together to talk trade and cooperation.
Exactly. And with Yunus there, pushing for closer ties with China, well, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. All right, let's hop back over to India for a bit of domestic political news. There's a headline here about the Chief Minister of Maharashtra and, well, some rumors about his future ambitions.
Ah, yes. Devendra Fadnavis. There's been some chatter about him as a potential prime minister candidate down the line in 2029.
2029, that's way out there. But hey, in politics, it's never too early to start thinking ahead.
True enough.
Yeah.
But Fadnavis, he's come out and flat out denied these rumors. He's made it clear that Narendra Modi is still the leader of the BJP, the party's behind him.
So he's putting a stop to that speculation. What prompted this whole thing anyway?
Well, there was this claim by Sanjay Raut, he's from the Shiv Sena UBT, that Modi might step down in September 2025 after he turns 75.
Ah, the age factor. There's been talk about that before.
Right. The BJP, they have this informal rule that leaders over 75 shouldn't hold ministerial positions.
But I guess that doesn't apply to the top job.
Apparently not. Fadnavis made a point of saying that this rule doesn't extend to the prime minister. So Modi's staying put, at least for now.
Message received. And Fadnavis, he also took the opportunity to address some other issues, didn't he? Like that new national education policy, the NEP.
He did. He defended the policy, said it's about moving away from that old colonial-era system, strengthening India's own cultural identity.
A bit of a hot-button issue, that one.
It is. There's been a lot of debate about it.
For sure. And what about those concerns raised by the M&S chief, Raj Thackeray? What were those about?
Thackeray's got a whole list of things he's worried about. River rejuvenation projects, rural development, even the use of loudspeakers at mosques.
A diverse portfolio of concerns.
You could say that. But Fadnavis, he addressed them all, said the government is working on these issues. He even mentioned those Supreme Court guidelines on noise pollution.
So he's trying to show that he's listening, that he's on top of things.
Exactly. It's all part of the political game.
Isn't it always? Okay, moving on. We've got a headline here that's, well, it's a bit unexpected. The Kerala Catholic Bishops' Council, they're coming out in support of the WACC Amendment Bill.
Yeah, this one raised some eyebrows. The KCBC, they're urging MPs from Kerala to back this bill. It's all about making the management of WACC properties more transparent.
WACC properties, for those who don't know, these are basically properties donated by Muslims for religious or charitable purposes, right?
Exactly. And the BJP, they're thrilled with the KCBC's stance. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman even gave them a shout-out, praising their support.
But not everyone is happy about this bill, are they?
Oh, no, definitely not. Some Congress leaders, like Hussein Dalwai, they're worried about the government getting too involved in the affairs of religious trusts. Not just Muslim ones, but Christian ones, too. They're concerned about government overreach.
A valid concern.
It is. And then you've got the Kerala BJP chief, Rajiv Chandrasekhar. He's claiming that there are other Christian groups who support the bill. But he also mentions some families in the Munambam area who are worried about potential land grabs by the WACC board.
So it's a complicated issue with different groups weighing in, different interests at play.
Very much so. And Sitharaman, she also praised the KCBC for calling for amendments to the WACC Act. They want to get rid of sections they see as unfair and even unconstitutional.
So it's not just blind support. They want to see some changes, too.
Exactly. It's a nuanced position.
All right, let's switch gears again. This time we're talking about a major military exercise, a joint operation between India and the United States.
Tiger Triumph is a big one. A tri-service exercise involving the Army, Navy, and Air Force, all happening in the Bay of Bengal.
Sounds impressive. What's the focus of this exercise?
It's all about improving how the Indian and U.S. militaries work together, interoperability. They're practicing humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, crisis management, the kind of stuff you need when things go bad.
Essential skills, especially in a region that's prone to natural disasters. Where's all this happening?
They started with a harbor phase in Visakhapatnam, and now they're doing maritime and amphibious operations off the coast of Kakinada.
And both sides have brought some serious hardware to the party, I hear.
Oh yeah, they're showing off their toys. India's got the INS Jalashwa, that's a big amphibious transport dock, the INS Gharial, the landing ship, and the destroyer Mumbai. They've also got a tanker, the Shakti, plus helicopters, landing craft, a maritime patrol aircraft, the P-8I, even Army troops, and a medical team.
Wow. And what about the U.S.?
The U.S. has sent the USS Comstock, that's an amphibious dock landing ship, and the destroyer USS Ralph Johnson. They've also got some Marines involved.
So a real show of force.
Definitely. And they've set up a joint command center in Kakinada, plus a joint medical camp. It's all about showing how closely they can work together.
This Tiger Triumph, it seems like another sign of the growing strategic partnership between India and the U.S., wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. They're doing more and more of these joint exercises. It's a clear message to the region and to the world.
A message of strength and unity. All right, our next headline takes us into the world of, well, it's a bit of a mystery. Allegations of technology transfer involving India's HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited.
This one's a bit murky. The New York Times, they published a report claiming that HAL transferred some sensitive British technology to Russia.
To Russia. That's a pretty serious accusation. What kind of technology are we talking about here?
The report mentions equipment from a company called H.R. Smith Group. It's supposed to have gone through HAL to a Russian arms exporter, Rosoboronexport. The implication is that this violated international trade rules.
I see. And what does the Indian government have to say about all this?
They're denying everything. They've called the report factually incorrect and misleading.
A strong denial.
Very strong. They say that HAL follows all the rules, all the laws about transferring technology, that they respect end-user agreements. They've even criticized the New York Times for not doing their due diligence.
So they're pushing back hard.
Oh, yeah. They're not taking this lying down.
The report also mentioned that British and American authorities were looking into this, right?
Yeah, that's right. They're apparently concerned about these dual-use components, the kind of stuff that can be used for both civilian and military purposes.
So it's not just about the transfer itself, but what this technology could potentially be used for.
Exactly. It's a sensitive issue with international ramifications.
Hmm.
But the Indian government, they're sticking to their story. They say they've got robust mechanisms in place to prevent any unauthorized transfer of sensitive technology.
So we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out. All right, let's move on to something a bit more uplifting. A headline about the Central Industrial Security Force, the CISF, and their rather ambitious cycling trip.
The Great Indian Coastal Cyclothon. This was a pretty awesome initiative. Over 125 cyclists, men and women, they rode over 6,500 kilometers along the Indian coastline.
6,500 kilometers. That's like the length of, I don't even know what.
It's a long way. They did it in 25 days.
Wow. That's some serious dedication. What was the purpose of this epic journey?
It was all about raising awareness about coastal security. They went through 11 states and union territories, engaged with 58 coastal communities.
So they weren't just cycling, they were stopping and talking to people.
Exactly. It was a huge outreach effort, the biggest ever done by an Indian security force. They reached over 130,000 people directly and millions more through media.
That's impressive. And where did they end of this epic ride?
The Vivekananda Rock Memorial in Kanyakumari.
A fitting finale. And it sounds like the CISF, they're really trying to get the message out there. Secure coasts, prosperous India.
Exactly. They want people to understand how important coastal security is. After all, India has a vast coastline, a lot to protect.
True that. All right, let's talk about another headline, one that's got people talking about history, culture, all sorts of things. The Uttarakhand government is renaming a bunch of places and roads.
13 areas, 2 roads across 4 districts. The chief minister, Pushkar Singh Dhami, he says it's about aligning these places with Indian culture and heritage.
So what's changing? Give us some examples.
Well, in Haridwar district, Aurangzebpur is becoming Shivaji Nagar, and Akbarpur Fazilpur is now Vijayanagar. In Dehradun, Mianwala is changing to Ramjiwala.
And those names, they're all connected to Hindu figures, right?
That's right. And in Nainital, Nawabi Road is becoming Atal Marg, named after former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And in Udham Singh Nagar district, Sultanpati is now Kaushaliapuri.
So it's a mix of historical figures and religious references.
Yeah. Dhami, he's saying that these changes reflect the wishes of the people, that they want to preserve their cultural heritage.
And this isn't unique to Uttarakhand, is it? We've seen this renaming trend in other parts of India, too.
Definitely. It's a sensitive topic for sure. Lots of debate about erasing history, rewriting narratives, and so on.
Complex stuff. All right, one last headline for today, and it's not a happy one. The IMD. They're forecasting some seriously hot weather for the coming months.
Yeah, not good news. They're predicting a hotter than normal April to June for most of India. More heat wave days, higher temperatures overall.
Which parts of the country are going to be hit the hardest?
Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh. They're all in the danger zone. And in some eastern areas, they could see as many as 10 or 11 heat wave days.
Wow, that's a lot. And heat waves, they're not just uncomfortable, they're dangerous, especially for certain groups.
Exactly. The elderly, children, people with health conditions,
Yeah.
they're all at higher risk. And then there's the strain on infrastructure. Power grids, transportation, everything gets pushed to the limit.
A real challenge.
It is. The IMG chief, Mr. Mohapatra, he's urging local authorities to get their heat action plans ready to start preparing now.
Better safe than sorry. Any good news on the weather front?
Well, some parts of western and eastern peninsular India, they might see normal temperatures, but overall it's going to be a scorcher,
Okay, so stock up on those cooling drinks.
definitely. And stay tuned for the monsoon forecast. That'll give us a better idea of what to expect for the rest of the year.
We'll be watching for that. Okay, let's end on a lighter note, shall we? A headline that caught my eye. An American woman, Kristen Fisher, she's been living in Delhi for a few years, and she's written about why she loves raising her kids in India.
Yeah, I saw that. It's a nice perspective, especially given all the heavy stuff we've been talking about.
It is. So what does she love about raising her kids in India?
She's got a whole list.
Yeah.
First, she loves the cultural diversity. She says it's teaching her kids to be adaptable, to see the world through different lenses.
That's a valuable lesson.
Absolutely. And she loves that her kids are learning multiple languages, English and Hindi.
Being bilingual, that's a huge advantage.
It is. And she says it gives them a global perspective, helps them understand different cultures, makes them more empathetic.
Empathy, that's something we could all use a little more of. What else is on her list?
She talks about how India is teaching her kids to be resilient, independent. And the social interactions, she says, they're so much richer here. It's helping her kids develop their emotional intelligence.
I can see that. India's a very social place.
It is. And Fisher, she also loves the strong family bonds she sees here. She talks about how grateful her kids are, how they appreciate the simple things.
Those are beautiful things. And lastly, she says India is helping her kids build global networks.
Exactly. They're growing up connected to the world.
It's a beautiful perspective. It's a reminder that even amidst all the challenges, there's so much to appreciate about India.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, one final headline. This one is about a documentary, Amma's Pride, and it tells the story of Srija, the first transgender woman to legally marry in Tamil Nadu.
This is a powerful story. The Madras High Court, they upheld Srija's marriage back in 2019. A big victory for LGBTQ plus rights in India.
A landmark ruling.
Yeah.
In the documentary, it focuses on her mother, Vali, right?
It does. Vali was incredibly supportive throughout Srija's journey. She was there emotionally, and she even sold her jewelry to help pay for Srija's gender affirmation surgery.
Wow, that's true love.
It is. And despite facing a lot of stigma, Srija and her husband, they continue to advocate for transgender rights.
They're an inspiration.
They are. And the filmmakers, they want to use this documentary to promote inclusion, to show people that transgender individuals deserve the same rights and respect as everyone else.
A powerful message. And with that, I think we've come to the end of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground today. Sports, trade, diplomacy, climate, politics, social issues. India is never a dull place.
Never a dull moment, that's for sure.
So, as we wrap up, I'd like to leave our listeners with a question. Out of all the headlines we've discussed, which one do you think will have the most lasting impact on India's future?
That's a tough one. They're all significant in their own way.
They are. But if you had to pick one, what would it be?
For me, it's got to be those climate change headlines, those temperature anomalies, those heat waves. They're a sign of things to come.
A sign of things to come and a call to action.
Absolutely. We can't ignore this.
We can't. All right, listeners, we encourage you to dig deeper into any of the headlines that piqued your interest. There's always more to learn. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See them?